は行く雲の果て
Greetings, War Thunderers. This is Longshot with you again with my guide to flying the Ki-43 Mark III Otsu in arcade. This plane was introduced in 1944, featuring a more powerful engine and the addition of some armour to protect the pilot. The Ko model went into large-scale production and was armed with machine guns. However, Gaijin have chosen to introduce the cannon-equipped Otsu into the main research tree, even though it never saw active service. Indeed, only 2 prototypes of the plane were ever built. The 2 Ho-5 20mm cannon are mounted in the nose, firing through the propeller, and the armour is simply a 12mm plate fitted behind the pilot. There's no armoured glass, so the pilot is still badly exposed in head-ons, and especially when attacking bombers. I'll switch to the internal component view, and this is much the same as other Hayabusas. This is one of the most fragile fighters in the game. Its ability to survive comes from its elusiveness, rather than the amount of damage it can tank. So, let's look at the handling characteristics in a test flight. Starting with the roll speed, which is blindingly fast, as indeed it was historically. Next I'll bank the plane and measure the strength of its elevators. I'm looking to see if it can overtake its smoke trail, which demonstrates a fast turning speed, and also the size of the turning circle, which is quite small. Indeed, it does overtake its smoke. The plane is an excellent turner, however I've dropped from 350 km an hour to 285, and as I continue to turn the plane will keep losing speed, and as it does so it's no longer overlapping its smoke trail, showing that it's lost some of its turning ability. So to turn well you need to be moving fast in this plane. Okay, next I'll test the strength of the rudder by using both it and the elevator in a climbing spiral. The plane wants to climb far more than it wants to turn to the side, indicating that the elevator is stronger. Indeed, it's hard to actually perform a climbing spiral until the plane's lost enough speed it can no longer climb too sharply. Down near 200 km an hour it performs this manoeuvre very well and can keep it going for a long time, due to the plane's amazing power-to-weight ratio, for this is a very light plane indeed, and its snappy response to controls shows that. Right, next I'll look at how it handles at high speed, and to do that I'll put it into a dive and use the ailerons to roll the plane. And every time I do so I'm amazed at its roll speed. It continues to roll well until it hits 500 km an hour, after which it slows a little, but it's still pretty fast. The rudder's a different story. By the time you pass 600 km an hour it's completely locked up with no responsiveness at all. The plane doesn't want to elevate it down either, so you'll be able to track a target provided your roll angles are aligned to his, and only if the target doesn't dodge, because if it does you'll struggle to get a gun solution. Also note that I made it into the mid 600 range only, kilometers an hour range, which is slow compared to many other planes at this battle rating, which can easily get past 700. Anyway, I'm into a zoom climb to measure its ability to recover altitude. I started the climb at 1,230 meters, and I take it right up to the point of stalling before I level out, gaining 2.4 kilometers in the climb, which is exceptional. In addition, watch how precise the plane's handling is at this incredibly low speed, and then how quickly it accelerates again. Anyway, the plane can obviously perform boom and zoom attacks to some extent, but it can't outrun a fast plane, and its high speed is a real cap to its abilities. But due to its amazing power-to-weight ratio, the plane has the makings of a brilliant lightweight energy fighter. Look how easily it performs this loop, starting at only 280 km an hour, and which I perform without using WEP. Not many planes could do this. Anyway, this flight test is using the very latest version of the plane's flight model, which has just been updated in a recent patch. Unfortunately, the rest of the battle footage was from a previous version, but as the only change was an increase in the roll speed, I didn't think it was worthwhile starting all over again. Right, so I spawned at 2,000 meters, pointing the plane straight up, and I'm letting the speed gently run down towards 230 km an hour IAS, which is its most efficient climbing speed. I'm heading straight toward the enemy. In fact, the only time I'll climb to the side in this plane is in air domination battles. This Hayabusa is the equal of any Tier 3 plane when it comes to climb rate. In fact, it's better than most. It's even superior to many Tier 4 planes. And because I'm climbing at such a slow speed, I'll get up to bomber altitude before meeting any enemies, and that gives me a significant advantage from the outset. My aim is simply to claim the high ground first, and then use it to take on any intercepting fighters. Now I'm well into the second wet period, which will get me to 4,300 meters before it expires, and the plane can keep climbing at this same rate right up to 7,000 meters. There's a couple of P-47s up here and a Focke-Wulf 190 in the distance that's climbed away from the battle. So I'm levelling the plane out a little to increase my speed. I don't want to be caught travelling too slow in combat. And looking round I can see a couple of B-25s, but for now it's a matter of watching the fighters to see how they respond to my presence at altitude. The 190 is the main threat. and he's approaching for now, so I'll keep climbing to see if I can get above him. But he's starting to dive. In fact, he ends up diving all the way to ground level and giving up all of his hard-won altitude. That's arcade for you these days, I guess. And with the P-47s also diving, that left me alone up here, so I decided to chase this B-25. As I get closer, I nose down into a low yo-yo. What I'm aiming for is an approach from underneath him and away from his guns, as a single hit from a B-25 gunner can ruin your day on this plane. I begin firing from about 600 metres and carefully focus my aim just left of the lead indicator as I'm going for a wing. The plane is a very steady guns platform, which is surprising in such a light plane. Takes a little while, but suddenly the job's done, the bomb is in pieces, and I quickly turn to fly away to make sure the gunner can't hit me with a parting shot. Now I'll show a few more bomber kills, each of them B-25s, as they're the most dangerous bomber you're going to face on a regular basis. This one tried for a head-on. I've ducked under his guns, and I'm turning to chase him again, trying to stay underneath him. With each type of bomber, it really pays to know where their gunners are, and the attack angles that expose you as little as possible to their fire. For not only is the Hayabusa a fragile and flammable plane, the pilot has no protection from the front, and it's very easy to lose him to a gunner. Right, now I'm safely under his belly. I can angle up for a nice long volley that rips off a wing with no danger to my plane at all. Okay, here's another one, and this guy knew exactly what I was trying to do. And he tried very hard to deny me the shot, while giving his rear gunner every chance to light me up. And it was quite an interesting battle. Okay, so it's just dodged the head-on. Where is he? There he is. Now he's trying to scissor toward me, which will bring his gunner into play. Even though I'd have an easy shot at him, it's simply not worth the risk for me to do so, hence I duck underneath. Once again he's scissoring back and I'm exposed to his gunner again. Again I try to dive underneath him. He's lifting into a climb, hoping I'll follow an attack from his 6, but I'm going to be patient, staying underneath, knowing he'll have to level out, and he actually goes into a dive, and that gives me a shot, which is enough to take out his tail controls, and I'll have to be satisfied with that. I'm not going to follow him down. So this tactic works even when you're on your last drops of fuel, as I am here. And by the way, this shows the need to fly with 30 minutes of fuel rather than the minimum of 20. When you use WEP a lot, as I do, it burns through your fuel at a rapid pace. It only takes a battle to go beyond 12 minutes for the tank to look rather empty. The extra fuel doesn't impact performance a great deal either. So that's medium bombers covered, but dive bombers are another matter, particularly Stuka D5s and B7A2s, and I handle both of them the same way. Often pilots are very aggressive in those planes, usually trying to fly straight at you, and the planes themselves are poor climbers that lose energy quickly, plus they really struggle at low speed. Having seen that this guy's a D5 and knowing that he's coming straight at me, because I'm the only target up here, I'm climbing hard. When he reaches me, I want to be just out of range, enough for him to stall his plane and give me the easiest possible firing solution. Both of our planes are manoeuvrable, mine more so than his, but in this case that doesn't matter. I'm simply using my strong climbing ability as a weapon against his weak climbing ability. He's going to try and helicopter up for that last shot, and that is his undoing. There's no escape for him now, and I don't care how many cannons he's carrying in those pods. They're no use if you can never get to fire them. Here's another example of the same tactic. Just lifting up as he gets into guns range, ruddering over, and there he is. At close range these cannons are very good. And here's how not to do it. Because I didn't take the time to make sure this Stuka was low on energy, he was able to turn and get guns on me. I was very lucky to survive with only the loss of a wingtip. Amazingly, the plane can be controlled in this state. I was even able to shoot down a Wellington later on, but you can see how deadly that mistake could have been for me. It pays to be patient. Okay, next I'll look at the plane's uses at low altitude, and in my opinion, this is not where the Hayabusa is at its best. It's very easy to get up to speeds that lock up its controls and make it a real struggle to get guns on target. And also that severely black out your pilot when you turn. This is not a Zero that can keep wheeling around at low speed in the middle of a furball. Rather, this plane is better when it can take on targets in isolation. In a crowded setting, it's only a matter of time before someone blindsides you, and it only takes one cannon shell to rip off a wing. So while I have had a few good games at low altitude, it's not where I'm comfortable flying the plane, and I'd rather be honest. This is usually the end result whenever I try to dogfight at ground level in the cannonbusa. I've already taken a few shots here, I don't know where from. Fresh line of enemies coming in, and no matter how agile your plane is, it's no match for a flood of incoming interceptors that can start firing at you from a kilometre away. Even if you see them coming, you'll be spending far more time dodging than you will shooting at targets. It only takes a few moments of disorientation to lose your plane. Here I had a Yak 9 on my tail, should have looped, and realised that a second too late. And this example shows how difficult it can be to dive on a dodging opponent even from only 1 kilometre above. Very quickly I'm travelling too fast, I can't get guns on him, I miss my firing window, and then I black out when I turn. I have no option but to bail out and zoom away. When fighting for control of high altitude, the most important thing is to pick your battles carefully and not to be in a rush. In this example I've climbed up 1500 metres above the enemy fighters below, but there's a lot of them up here to contend with. Certainly too many for me to take on at once. Take a look at what I'm up against. The B-7A2 will fly away, but that leaves 5 other fighters, which is too much for me to handle in a group, no matter how good I get in a Hayabusa. As I fly over them, the group starts to break up, with the B-7A2, Tiffy, ME-410 and A6M5 flying underneath me while the other 2 hang back. Because it's higher than the others, I decide to boom and zoom the A6M5. Just waiting for him to get underneath me, and in I go. Now I intend, if I miss him or kill him or whatever, I'm going to zoom climb back in the direction of my friendly spawn and away from the other planes, and that's a pretty safe attack. But as I approach, he begins to turn to the left. And at this point I should have broken off and climbed, but I turned with him to make sure I got the kill, and then the Tiffy was in front of me, so I attacked him as well. Okay, and then the ME-410's there. And suddenly I'm in a head-on with an LA-7, which I snap-rolled to avoid, and there's one more plane unaccounted for, the Premium Mustang, who takes the opportunity to shoot my tail controls before finishing me off. I actually got 3 kills in that run, but in doing so I lost control of the situation. I paid for it with my plane. I wasn't flying where I'd planned to fly, I just ended up following my nose and flew straight into trouble. This time I have a P-38 flying straight at me. You can see him right in front of the propeller and an approaching LA-5 in the top centre of the screen, who is certainly a threat. I want to take them on one at a time, so it's important that I kill the P-38 quickly. I wait till he's stalled his plane, dive in to shoot him down, and then I'm extending away from the LA-5 and keeping out of reach of his guns, which lets me deal with him later in turn. I made a plan, executed it, and I stayed out of trouble. And once you have control of high altitude, the most common attacks are boom and zoom passes against climbing planes. Look for targets that you can attack from behind, like this Beaufighter. It minimises the chances that they'll see you coming, but also gives you the full profile of the plane to shoot at. And because I'm approaching quickly, I'll usually start firing at around 500 or 600 metres, but it's at closer ranges that the cannons are most effective. On this occasion I was diving to attack P-43. But partway through the dive I realised that a Yak 7 was climbing. Would make more sense to shoot at him. I don't have to dive as far to get him, so I switched. This time I waited till I was nice and close before zooming in and opening fire. Anyway, a couple of things to look out for. If you're directly behind an enemy in a diving attack, it can be very hard to do any damage at all with these cannon, plus you'll struggle to follow them if they go evasive. And secondly, don't get too close. Make sure your angle of approach will take you past the target, not right at them, or you'll end up doing something like this. Okay, let's step it up a notch. When someone's climbing up at you, it's really important to measure how much energy they have. This P-39 has been climbing up at me for a while. I've flown over him, which makes him stand his plane on end in order to follow me, and as I swoop to attack I'm zoomed in and I'm looking in closely. If he could still lift the nose for a head-on, I'd have bought the attack immediately, but he was out of speed, so I went through with it and shot him down. You can't risk a head-on in this plane. This Corsair has plenty of energy as he approaches me. I fly across his path, forcing him to climb steeply to get guns on me, and then I'm going to lift into a climbing spiral, which quickly bleeds away the rest of his speed. I'm watching him very closely, and as soon as I see vapor trails from his wingtips, I know he's stalling and that it's safe to attack. And by the way, that's the first time in this video I've had reason to use the maneuverability of this plane, and it was to make an enemy stall rather than to outturn him in a dogfight. Anyway, another climber, this time a Spitfire. As I drop into attack, I realise he's still fast enough to climb straight at me, so I pull out of it, go into a loop, tweaking the rudder as I do so to avoid his guns, and as I come out of the loop, his energy is gone. He can't force a head-on now, and it's an easy and safe kill. And it's a similar story with a Zero here. I avoid the head-on, I spiral climb to exhaust his energy, and then swoop in once he's nice and slow. The maneuverability of the cannonbusa makes it one of the best planes in the game for setting up and executing stall trap kills like this. The sheer speed at which you can suddenly turn and attack an enemy once they're stalled simply gives them no chance to dodge or dive away. But it does call for a lot of judgment on your part to make sure that the enemy is low on speed, because if they have more speed under their belt than you anticipate, you can suddenly wear a lot of cannon shells as you're in a climbing spiral. Anyway, as you may have noticed, this is a domination map, and in these battles I struggle often to make an impact with this plane. It's not a fast boom and zoomer that can blast through a furball. It's not a great low-speed dogfighter at ground level in a crowded environment. Its strength is baiting enemies into energy fights, or if needs be, dogfighting them one-on-one. But it's not easy doing this in a situation where everyone's hell-bent on diving straight into the central furball. Here I'm flying in front of the line of incoming enemies, and I baited a P-38, which ends up with him being slow and shot down. You can boom and zoom through the furball, but it's not really what the plane's good at given its low top speed and the degree to which its controls lock up. As shown in this run, it still is a viable tactic you can perform, if absolutely no one is interested in climbing at you at all, but you've got to be so careful not to pick up a faster plane on your tail. Air domination, however, is where the cannonbusa really gets its chance to shine. To finish this video, I'll show you a full battle, which I narrated while flying the plane. This certainly was not an easy battle, as the cloud made things very difficult, plus my team was purely intent on furballing, which eventually led to my being the sole survivor against a horde of enemies. Anyway, I hope this helps you better understand the plane and what it's capable of. Okay, so I've side climbed out to the side of the battle because I didn't want to meet the rush of enemies head on. Trying to gain as much altitude as I can before I'm forced into combat. Okay, I have a Yak 1 coming straight at me. Looks like the only enemy at the moment. I've selected him. Okay, I can't let him just take a shot at me while I'm climbing, so I'm going for a head-on. I'm going to go on a snap roll, except for some reason he's not climbing at me. Maybe he stalled. Doesn't look like he stalled. Never mind. That's a bit of a gift of a kill to start with. Right, now I've picked up a P-43. I have enough energy just to run away, but I'm going to just dodge a bit. Make sure he can't hit me with a snipe. Okay, and I can loop over even at this low speed. Drop down, and this should be an easy stall kill. Provided he might have got enough speed to... Come on. Oh, lucky, he ripped off his wingtip. And that should, I think, have given me control of high altitude. Although this map looks like it's covered on the enemy side of it in a solid layer of cloud, which could make things difficult if the enemy starts to climb through that cloud, because that would make them rather hard to spot. Okay, I've got a climbing P-47. See if I can use the cloud to my advantage. I'll duck behind it here so he can't see me, and hopefully pick him up if he keeps climbing. Yep, there he is. See if I can dive in and get him. No, He's either seen me or chosen another target, and I'm not going to follow him too low. Plenty of other planes lower down that can pick him up if he goes down there. Indeed, everyone's too low. I'm already capturing the zone this early in the battle. Okay, so now I'm under the cloud and just patrolling directly over the line of incoming enemies. In fact, I'm only 1,000 meters or 1,500 meters over their spawn height, which is a bit low for comfort. Looks like I should be able to get this guy though. Nope. And as I start to stiffen up in the dive, I can't follow him. I have to be content with having chased him down, and oh, there's a 190 who has picked me up. Will I reach the cloud before he gets to me? I probably will. Though it's going to be close. I better face him and be prepared to snap roll just in case. Friendly Stuka's taking him out. Quiet for a moment, and yes, very good idea to reload when you only have 16 shells left in your cannons. Just got to keep looking around, check for anyone who wants to climb. And there's the 190 pilot back in Messerschmitt 410. Looks like he wants to climb straight at me. Just going to lift up, exhaust his climbing speed and therefore his maneuverability, which should let me drop down behind for the easiest of kills. There we go. Not sure what that P-47's doing. Looks like he's flying away from the zone out to my right in order to then gain altitude and come back, which is something I'll have to keep an eye on, that one. But for the moment I have a Chika to worry about. I'm only picking on the planes which want to climb up and hold altitude. I don't care about the people furballing on the ground, provided my side doesn't get decimated down there. Happens in half of all battles, I guess. Anyway, this Chika seems oblivious to my presence, so I should be able to just boom and zoom in. And that's why I use stealth. If I'd used anything with traces, he would have just had that half second to react and dodge, and I might not have got him. Anyway, the P-47's heading back, so I'm just going to gain my altitude again. Strange, he doesn't appear to have climbed all that much during his time spent out to the side of the battle. Maybe he just had to answer the phone or something, I don't know. Again, very close to capturing the zone, and I think it's only this P-47 coming back that's stopped that. Let's see if he wants to come straight at me or not. Don't think he is, no. Okay, dive in on top. I'm not gaining him, so he is diving too. And away he goes. And suddenly there's not very many fighters down there, friendly fighters. They're all red, so this game is not going particularly well for my team, I don't think. That Welly may draw a couple of attackers. In fact, the P-47 seems to be going for him. And a I-185 as well, so I'll pick up the I-185 first. There we go, and then switch to the 47. Where is he? Is that him? Yes, it was him. I think I missed a good shot just then, nonetheless. It's hard to do damage from directly behind like this. But there's another lucky wing rip. Okay, what's happening? There's still plenty of blue planes in the air, but with the exception of an A6M2N, they are all bombers by the looks of things. The enemy have a ton of fighters left. There's the I-185 pilot back in an LA5, I have to watch him. As it climbs up for revenge or some such. He's definitely climbing, whether at me or at one of the bombers, I'm not sure. In fact, I expect all of their fighters to begin climbing once our targets have dried up at ground level. Corsair is a potential target. I just don't want to rush and dive into trouble right now. There's 2 Corsairs that looks like they've climbed. No one is coming straight for me, so it seems that they're all going bomber hunting, I think. We've lost the friendly B-7A2. Not sure where the A6M2N went, but here's the LA5. Should be able to pick him up. Looks like he's stalling himself out. If only I could aim. Had a perfect shot at his pilot, but I was off to the left. I'm taking a bit of a risk here. I'll see if I can follow him. I don't want him circling around behind me. I'm taking a risk because in doing this I don't know where the enemy planes are. But I almost have him. Right. Now to go evasive, and yes, I did have an enemy straight at me. I've really got to remap that zoom key. I keep bumping it. Okay, a Corsair. Right, wave off him. Not many Corsairs survive being burned. And okay, got a P-38 and a P-39 up at altitude. Just climb again while I reload. Not sure whether to go for that P-38 or not because I'm in the clouds, which has blinded me to what's going on. He's being chased by a friendly SM-79. If I was the P-38 pilot, I'd be rather embarrassed by that. I'll put him out of his misery. And, oops. Yep, got to keep your eyes open. I'm lucky that Aerocopter was not going for me. Really need to start clawing for altitude now, as the skies are suddenly very empty of blue planes. It's at this point I start hoping that the battle is going to end quickly because I can see myself being pushed out of the zone. Handful of planes I'd be able to handle at once climbing at me, but not 12. Because as soon as I dive to attack, I'm lucky to come under gunfire from something else. Okay, the LA5 pilot's back. See if I can catch him in a stall. Oh, he's wise to that and he's diving away. Okay, back into a zoom climb. And I've picked up a P-39. Should have the energy to fly away, but I don't want to wear a sniped 37mm shell. And I've been forced out of the zone. And, whoops, taking some very long range hits from the LA5. When I last looked, was 1.5 kilometers away from me. Indeed he is, even further. And as much as I hate conceding defeat, I think that's all I can do in this battle. And that's all I have for you in this video as well. This is really a very fun plane to fly, but it does have very tight parameters that you have to stick within. I hope you've enjoyed the video as much as I've enjoyed making it. Until the next one, I'll see you in the skies.